Hi everyone, in this video we are going to start learning about error handling. We are going to start this process with the panic. So we use panic macro to intentionally stop our program. When this panic happens, our program crashes. It doesn't continue after this point. So whenever this happens, then it means it's done. So we can create this panic macro or program creates it for us. For an example, when we create some vectors and once we try to access an index which doesn't exist, then the program going to create a panic and then it's going to stop executing. This process after the panic is called unwinding. It's basically the crash of our program, and we are going to see how we can intentionally use this and what can be the areas that we are going to use panic. After this lesson, we are going to continue learning about error handling. Thank you very much, and let's start with the panic macro. First, let's see how we can create the panic macro. So here I'm going to create a vector. Let's say my vec here, and we are going to have 1 and 2 here. Here I'm going to create another variable. Let's say my variable here, and then we are going to say my vector, and as the index, let's say 5. And if I save this, first let's build our code, and as you can see, we built without any problem. Now I'm going to say cargo run. And now you can see that our thread main panicked at index out of bounds. The length is 2, but the index is 5. And it's the problem about here. So once we created this, as you can see, there's no problem actually. And we can even build our code. Because the problem happens when the code actually tries to get to this index, then it realizes that there's a problem here and it panics. In many other programming languages, for example like C or C++, this situation doesn't happen. If you try to get an item from an array which is on the heap, then what you would get would not be a panic. What you would get is a variable or a value that you didn't want to get in the first place. So it works like this. I have a couple of variables here, and this is my last variable. And if I just give a value out of bounds, then it goes somewhere in the memory. But that place, if it has any other value, then that will be the value that I retrieved. So it works in a different way, and that causes many problems, and it's very hard to debug. So Rust actually uses this panic feature so that we wouldn't continue with a logical error. This is an example usage of a panic which is created from Rust for us, and let's see how we can create this situation once we want to create on our own. So I'm going to delete these, and then we are going to create an array. Let's say I'm going to say veggies, and here I will have carrot, tomato, and potato. Let's create a function here. Let's say choose veggie as the function, and here we are going to have a veggie which is string slice, and we are not going to return anything here, and I'm going to paste the code here. Alright, and it's going to be veggie. So let's look at this function here. We have carrot, tomato, potato as we have in our array. But we also have an option, and this option includes any other option that is not carrot, tomato, or potato. For the rest of the option, we are panicking here and we are saying this is not an acceptable veggie. So after this line of code, our program will not continue and we are basically going to crash our program. That's what we are expecting. So here, let's say choose veggie, and here I'm going to call this with veggies 0, veggies 1, and veggies 2. So I'm calling this with carrot, tomato, potato, and finally I'm going to call this with eggplant. And let's run our code and see how it works. First, it says Bugs Bunny loves it, so it must be good, because first we provided carrot here, then we got this line. Then we got this line, have to have it in my burger for the tomatoes, since we provided veggies 1, which is tomato. Then we provided the potato, and for that it said this is my favorite veggie. And then we provided an eggplant, and for the eggplant it wasn't carrot, tomato, or potato, so it was another option. And we said for the other options we are basically going to panic, and that's what we did. We said we panicked, and as the message we said this is not an acceptable veggie. So I know our example is not the best use case, but with this you can get an idea that you can crash your programs with this panic with providing messages. So that's useful in a couple of places, and the best places to use this panic macro is the places that you don't want to continue with your program because there can be something shady or wrong. So if there is some input or result that you are waiting, and your whole later calculation or process depends on that, and if you have any problem with that value, if it's something that you don't expect, then you can panic, so that that value won't be used, since it's going to misguide your program. That's one of the basic usage of panic, and that's all for this video. Thank you very much, and we are going to continue with our error handling in the next lessons. See you then.